So I am 27. Geez, I am getting old. But I think 27-year-old Zach is tremendously different in a good way than 21-year-old Zach. The worst year of my life was probably when I was 23. I was floating in between schools, unhappy, unhealthy, and just not where I wanted to be in life. Of course, in the grand scheme of things, my life really wasn't that bad. However, I still felt not great at all. I knew I needed to make a change. I knew I needed to change my 20s or I would be going downhill as opposed from uphill. So what followed was the biggest change in my life ever. I tried new things. I developed new rules for myself. I cut out people in my life and I made big changes. And I turned my life around. Now I'm the happiest I've ever been and thrilled to be where I am. I mean, I'm gonna be a doctor in 1 year. My YouTube channel has over 250,000 subscribers. That is insane. And the most important thing is I feel good. I feel happy. My mind and body are the healthiest they have ever been. So in this video, I'm gonna give you the 20 most important things I learned in my 20s so far. Number 1 is your 20s matter. For many people, your work is decided in your 20s. You go to school and then land that first job, hopefully, and then your career path is chosen. For many, your love life is also decided in your 20s. According to the US Census Bureau, in 2018, the average age of the first marriage was 28 years old for women and 30 years old for men. Also, for many, your physical health is solidified in your 20s. This is when you've established your habits around eating and exercise. Now, I know I may not necessarily find the perfect relationship, job, or health strategies in my 20s. However, I do know that my 20s are a critical time. I don't want to waste them. Number 2 is savings won't make you rich. Across all of my teenage years until I was about 22, I had saved $10,000. That's pretty good, right? But it's not great. I saw all this money sitting in my bank account when I was like 22 and I was like, what am I gonna do with this? Do I do index funds, bonds, crypto? What do I do with this money? And I could save maybe a couple $100 a month and put that in there, and then maybe over time I would gain 10% on that $10,000 every year. But still, that wouldn't take me very far. Unless you're in like the top 5th percentile of earners in your 20s, likely your savings aren't gonna make that huge an impact in the final cash amount in your bank account. I mean, getting your savings right is probably a good habit to get into, and it can help you earn a little bit of money, but it's not gonna give you huge jumps in your cash flow. It's just not. And I realized this about 2 years ago, and I decided, okay, what am I gonna do with this $10,000? Am I gonna slowly earn money over time, or should I just do something with it? And what I did is I spent the entire $10,000 on setting up my YouTube equipment, setting up my YouTube gear. And I think this was a fantastic investment, mainly for one reason. Not because it turned out well and my YouTube channel is successful now and all this kind of stuff, but because I was investing in myself. A great rule I learned from Tim Ferriss is that even if it fails, what will you get out of it? Well, I'll learn about cinematography, I'll learn about storytelling, I'll learn about writing, reading, and all these great things. Even if it failed, I would have succeeded. And of course, there was the chance it could do well, which it did. Bottom line is, savings won't make you rich in your 20s. Number 3 is you can teach yourself anything. Seriously, you can accomplish any task, you can jump any hurdle, you can do anything within reason. It's just a matter of time. Countless times in the past couple of years, I was lost and thought I would never ever be able to accomplish these things. Learning complicated medical topics, building a podcast studio, hiring an editor, all these things I thought were impossible and I could just never do. But I found that when I put myself to it, you can actually do pretty much anything. Again, it's just a matter of time. Some things took more time than others, but I could do them. I just needed to put the time into them. Programming, you could learn that. A new language, you could learn that. Rock climbing, you could learn that. Bottom line, you can learn anything. You can do anything. It's just a matter of time. Seriously. Number 4 is find advisors, mentors, and supporters. A mentor in college pushed me to go into medical school, and a mentor in medical school pushed me to go into learning and studying internal medicine. An internet mentor and friend now pushed me into making my YouTube videos, and now recently pushed me to creating my podcast studio, and podcasts are coming soon. However, the question I always had is, how do you find a mentor? How do you find someone to talk with? And how do you organize these meetings with your mentor? And I think it varies a lot. But what worked for me is in school, you interact with professors and teachers a lot. and they're great people to be your mentors. And how do you establish this relationship? Well, I just knew I had a few kind of pieces of life advice questions and like where I'm going next questions. And what I did is I just emailed a couple of them that I really admired and said, listen, I'm not really sure what I want to do when I get out of college or where I want to go. Can we take 30 minutes to talk about this? And I was astounded by how motivated and passionate these teachers were for actually just giving me some advice, taking the time to sit down with me and talk to me. The key here is that the mentors, the people that you're looking up to and asking to take time out of their life, are usually much busier than you are. So you have to be the one that sends the emails. And I like to set up a meeting with my mentors for about like 15 to 30 minutes, maybe once every 3 months, just to see like how I'm doing and talk to them. Bottom line, find someone you admire and send them an email, call them, text them, and see if they would be okay with meeting to talk to you about some advice. It is on you to keep the relationship going. Number 5 is succeed, but with no wasted effort. Aim for the minimum necessary target and move there as efficiently as possible. For example, I only needed a specific score to pass many of my medical school classes, and that score was around 70 to 80%. Now, to get that 70 to 80%, which was just a quiz once a week, I'd probably need to study maybe 30 minutes the night before the exam. Now, I could have studied an hour, 2 hours, and probably gotten a 90% to 100% on the exam, but there is no point to doing that. I'm putting an extra 100% to 400% effort for really no change in return. However, for my most important exams in med school, the ones that are graded and go send off to residency, I put in that extra 100%, 400% effort, because if that even caused a 1% change in my score, it might be worth it. For my attitude toward quizzes, some people would call me a slacker or a coaster or something like that, and I might agree. However, the effort is purposeful to hit a target for me. I think anything above that effort to hit that target is wasted effort. My time is precious. Anything I put an extended amount of time into should be for a specific reason. If you want to learn for the sake of learning, then that's great, but just understand in your mind that that's why you're doing it. You're not doing it to get a higher grade, because what does anything above an A get? Nothing. It has no change in your GPA or anything like this. An A is an A is an A. Bottom line, aim to achieve the necessary target as efficiently as possible. Number 6 is the little things matter more. Small habits repeated consistently are more likely to lead to success than large habits repeated occasionally. When I started focusing on what I do every day as opposed to my ethereal big goals, I saw progress. I started achieving what I wanted. Some little things I do consistently is I always study a little bit every morning. I always write once a day for 30 minutes. I always read once a day for 30 minutes. I exercise 5 times a week, so that's kind of nearly every day. I get as much nature time as possible. Bottom line is focus on your everyday habits. This is where you could see big changes. Number 7 is the world isn't so scary. Recently, I went back to New York City for the first time in 10 years. The last time I went there was when I was a kid looking at colleges and where I wanted to go to school and all that kind of stuff. And I remember thinking, wow, this is a big city. There's a lot of people here. I don't want to live here. There's too many things going on. I'm too scared of what's happening here. But I returned a couple of months ago, and I remember thinking when I first stepped off the train off Penn Station, which is an interesting station, wow, this city is actually pretty cool. And I found myself walking endlessly around everywhere. And 1 or 2 times I got lost and I asked someone, and they didn't bite my head off. They were nice. They helped me. My best life experiences have been in Tanzania, Croatia, Amsterdam, and Budapest. And these places aren't in America. It's hard to put into words, but these different parts of the world live life differently. And I found the difference at first to be shocking, but later I realized, wait a second, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Different things can still be good things. I remember when I was in Tanzania, I saw a Maasai man leading away a hippo with a stick. And I remember seeing on the Discovery Channel how dangerous these hippos are, and it was almost like a new part of my brain opened up, a compartment door opened. Someone can control this extremely dangerous animal with a stick? How is that even possible? How is this guy not scared out of his mind being right next to this dangerous creature? Well, the same thing happened when I first saw how the biking worked in Amsterdam and when I partied with people in Budapest. I felt a click in my brain and a new compartment open, a place that I never knew even existed, a thing that I never even knew existed. So bottom line, find a way to travel. Talk to people. The downside is really small and the upside is huge. Number 8 is avoid underemployment. And this may be a more controversial tip here, but I took this from the book The Defining Decade by Meg J. And in it, she says, avoid jobs that don't teach you quality skills or provide some identity capital. And I'm quoting from her here, underemployment doesn't pay off. Sometimes it is just a way to pretend we aren't working, such as running a ski lift or doing what one executive called the eternal band thing. While these sorts of jobs can be fun, they also signal to future employers a period of lostness. A degree from a university followed by too many unexplained retail and coffee shop gigs looks backward. Unless you want to have a career in retail or hospitality, those sorts of jobs can hurt your resumes and even your lives. And I kind of agree with her. That's why I listed it as a tip here. Whenever I take on a serious commitment or task, I think to myself, why am I doing this? What am I trying to gain? Will I achieve that gain? Will what I'm doing have some impact on other people or things that is positive? Or is this commitment, this thing I'm saying I'm going to do, a waste of time? Bottom line is avoid underemployment at all costs. Number 9 is say no most of the time. And Derek Sivers, if you don't know him, he's great, but he puts it best saying, hell yeah or no. You should say no to the things that you feel 7 out of 10 about or less. And you should say no to these things because it frees you up to say yes that you feel 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 about. As a caveat, I think in our 20s, and especially at the beginning of our careers, we are opportunity poor. We should be saying yes to more things because it builds new connections and can provide new opportunity. For example, I have a personal rule. If I know something is going to be beneficial, but I'm scared of asking someone for it or scared of doing it, I usually make sure I always do it. And even now, as a smaller creator, I find myself getting tons of these little opportunities. And I do say yes to something whenever it excites me or it feels like this is going to be a good opportunity. However, I'm still saying no to at least 95% of the things that come my way. Bottom line, say no most of the time. Number 10 is say, I don't know. I don't know everything. No one knows everything. Why is it such an ego trip to say, I don't know? It's so freeing. I remember I was talking to this patient, and this patient had idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, and this is just kind of when your lung gets fibrosed, and it's not good news. And he asked, why is this happening to me? What is going on in my lungs that is causing this? And I remember I kind of fumbled around for a little bit trying to come up with explanations about what fibrosis is and all this kind of stuff. But in reality, I had no idea what happened. And I remember I stopped myself and said, listen, I don't know why this is happening, and I'm sorry. And the patient didn't run out of the hospital or call my supervisor. He said, okay, that's okay. Thank you for being honest with me. And I was astounded that that was his reaction. Now, of course, I went back to my supervising doctors and all this stuff and told them about this and said, can you go talk to this patient and see if you can explain it, because they know way, way more than me. But in the moment, I just said, I don't know. Realizing and admitting to my gaps and my faults is difficult. We all want to be the best, most brilliant, super awesome, cool dude there ever was. However, admitting you don't know something is hugely important, not only for yourself, but also for other people. And I found honest communication to be vital, especially in my early experiences with clinical medicine. So when you don't know the answer, be honest. It will not only help you, but it will help every single person you interact with. Bottom line, try saying, I don't know. Number 11 is no one cares and no one knows. No one cares about what you're doing and nobody knows what you're doing. When I first started posting YouTube videos, I remember I thought the world would end. I thought my high school friends would see it and goof on me. The people in medical school would be talking about me behind my back and laughing about me and all these kind of things. But really, nothing happened. I worried I would become an ogre and be sent to the swamp, but at least maybe Donkey would be there, so it would be okay.
I live alone. My swamp. Me. Nobody else, understand?
But really, none of those things happened. The world didn't end. And actually, no one even knew what I was doing. No one even commented on my first couple of videos. No one messaged me. Nothing happened. Most people are way too concerned with themselves to have any idea what you're doing. So what other people think should not affect what you do one iota. Bottom line, no one knows and no one cares what you're doing, so do it. Number 12 is do the adult things. And I kind of learned these things slowly in my 20s, but these are things that really, before you get out of your 20s, I think you should know how to do. You should know how to do laundry. You should know how to cook like 2 or 3 basic healthy meals. You should know how to budget. You should know how taxes work. You should know how to get organized and use calendars. You should get better at public speaking. You should learn how to dress reasonably well, and you should figure out how to make your own doctor's appointments and dentist appointments and how insurance works with all of that and your job and all these kind of things. Bottom line is try to adult. Well, I guess I don't have that much left, but it's just so much, and then I have to take all this equipment down and all this kind of stuff. Oh, shit, I'm recording this video. I'm recording this video. And now I'm talking to no one. There is no one here. And now I'm probably gone insane. Okay, tip number 13 is to not complain. The first lesson of how to win friends and influence people is don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Now, I think criticism can be helpful. Like, I accept and like criticism from you guys because it helps me improve usually. Actually, some of the things you guys say, I've put into my videos and hopefully they sound and look and make a little bit more sense and are just a little bit better. Complaining, however, I do. And I do it probably way too much. Okay, I can't believe how much more? I have so much more to talk about, and it's like Saturday. And I think there are two problems with complaining. Number one is it bums other people out. Usually other people don't want to hear you complain. Problem number two is I'm actually saying to myself when I complain, things are actually not great. Things aren't good. Multiple studies actually indicate that negative thoughts, negative thinking can cause negative structural changes in our brain. And I don't want that. Bottom line is don't complain. Number 14 is wake up and go to bed at the same time. Waking up and going to bed at the same time is one of the simplest things that have dramatically improved my life. The best way to do this is to set a consistent wake time. Don't worry really about the bedtime. If you always wake up at the same time every day, your body will start to adjust and you'll know when you're tired and when it's bedtime. You will start to get sleepy at the perfect time for you. So in one study that looked at a couple of studies about varying bedtimes, they found that having bedtimes that vary by more than 30 minutes is associated with lower dietary quality, higher alcohol consumption, higher sitting time, more frequent insufficient sleep, and poorer overall lifestyle behaviors. Bottom line, go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. Number 15 is the people around you the most influence you the most. I'm sure you've heard this expression before, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and I think this is a bit cliche at this point, but it definitely holds some truth. I think you actually are a bigger influence on yourself than the 5 people you hang around with the most, but these 5 people have an influence on you. I remember in high school I started lifting weights because my friends were lifting weights. I also started nerding out on video games and card games because my friends were nerding out on video games and card games. And I also began watching sports because my friends watched sports. Now today I don't watch sports anymore because I just don't really get the whole sports thing. We like sports and we don't care who knows. But I do still nerd out on video games and I still do lift weights. Realize that your closest friends, the people you hang around with the most, the people you are in the closest relationship with, do have an influence on you. And at the end of college, I kind of started to realize this, and I started to cut certain people out of my life and emphasize my relationship with other people. Bottom line, realize the people around you have an influence on you. Number 16 is read more, and I started reading more seriously probably about 2 years ago, and I've noticed some benefits, and importantly, these benefits I'm going to talk about aren't the actual content of the books, even though the content of the books has obviously helped me. But the benefits outside of the contents of the books are my writing improved, my vocabulary improved, my ability to speak improved, which was weird, my ability to stay focused for longer improved, my communication abilities improved. So I try to read about 30 minutes before bed every night, and usually half that time will be spent reading like a nonfiction, like learny kind of book, and then the other 15 minutes will be kind of a fun fiction book, like I've been rereading all the Harry Potter books recently. However, the biggest spurts of reading I have are when I'm kind of have a nice long chill time. For example, I just finished my big exam in medical school, thankfully, so now I have lots of these chill times, and what I'll do is I'll just go sit in the park in nature and just read for extended periods of time. This is when I find the most reading gets done. Bottom line is read more. Tip number 17 is just do it now. Just do it now. Start a website, apply to that job or school, write the book, do the thing you've been putting off. Because the great thing about the internet nowadays is there's really usually not much holding us back from doing these things. I played around with starting a YouTube channel for like 2 years before I actually started doing it. And I always beat myself up because imagine what I could have learned or started or accomplished in those 2 years if I just started right away. And the standard argument is, oh, I'm not ready, I need to learn more about XYZ, I need to get these kind of gear and things like this. And those are all awful arguments. And I had that same argument. The important thing I want to point out is the rate of learning when you're actually doing something is so much greater than when you're preparing to do something. So for example, I prepared to do my YouTube channel for 2 years and I was researching and getting equipment and studying up and all this kind of stuff. And I learned probably that same amount that I learned in those 2 years in my first month of just actually making YouTube videos. The rate of learning is dramatically greater when you're actually doing it. Bottom line, just start, just do it. I know there's something you've been putting off, something you don't want to do because you feel like you're not ready or you feel like you've been putting it off, but just start. Okay, we're on to my last 3 tips, the last 3 important things that I've learned in my 20s. And these last 3 things I think are the most important things I've learned. So if you're only watching one part of this video, I would watch this part. So tip number 18 is most things aren't personal, especially personal insults. Now, I wasn't ever seriously bullied, but I remember in middle school, someone called me weird and lame, like in the cafeteria in front of everyone. And I was like, this sucks. And I went home and I thought about it a lot and I just kept thinking about it like for a year. And I started to think, maybe I am lame, maybe I am weird. But luckily the newest Halo game came out and it distracted me from that thought. And in my early 20s, I remember the occasional encounter with someone with like road rage, or I'd be at a party and someone who would get like really angry and like want to fight for no real reason. And they'd suddenly become really mad at me. And I also would suddenly get angry, and I don't know why I would get angry. It was just almost a reaction I had. I always remember feeling this kind of stress and this internal angst, like why does this person feel this way about me? Did I do something wrong? Am I a bad person? And I remember in college, at some point I was like scrolling through Reddit and I saw this kind of yogi guy with like a long white beard, and under his picture there was this quote. And the quote says, "If you are willing to look at another person's behavior toward you as a reflection of the state of their relationship with themselves, rather than a statement about your value as a person, then you will, over a period of time, cease to react to all." And I remember when I first read that, like in my early 20s, I was like, whatever, it's just a dumb quote, like I'll just go into the next thing. But then I saw it again, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, and I was like, wait a second, this makes sense. And I thought, he's right. Other people's anger, especially when it's like an in the moment kind of thing and they're saying something about you, usually isn't even remotely related to actually what you did or who you are as a person. It's usually a reflection of themselves and how they feel about themselves or how they feel about something that just happened. And this kind of changed my life. When you realize this, no verbal shrapnel or anger or insulting statements can touch you. I really honestly can't remember the last time someone insulted me, and it was probably a day ago or probably even like this minute on my YouTube channel, someone's calling me dumb or telling me I did something wrong. But really, it doesn't affect me because I know that these mean statements or the anger in these statements is usually not anger at me, but it's anger with the person making this statement. They're angry at themselves for some reason, or something is going on with their life that's making them lash out like this. Bottom line, insults towards you aren't personal. They're usually a reflection of the person flinging the insults. Number 19, start cultivating a healthy mind and body right now. Exercise improves sleep, memory, anxiety, depression, and all-cause mortality. So yeah, definitely avoid exercise at all costs. But the newer thing to me, because I've kind of been exercising for a while, but the newer thing for me is cultivating a healthy mind. And I've noticed that all my interactions are better with people, and I just feel better more frequently when I start to focus on actually what's going on up here. And the things that have had the most significant impact on me and my head are probably mindfulness, meditation, a morning journal where I kind of like write out just brain dump of thoughts, and also where I write out 3 things I'm grateful for, reading more, and just getting outside more and being in nature more. Those are the things probably that have most benefited my head. So bottom line, get your body and mind in shape as soon as you can. And number 20, my final tip is this too shall pass. Everything that happened at the beginning of my 20s and in my teenage years and all this kind of things, I remember felt critical at that time. It felt like what was happening then was going to change the planet. There's that girl that doesn't like me, or I said something dumb in front of my friends, or I got a C on my test, and I felt like this was the end of the world, it's over, my life's over, I'm gonna go nowhere in life because these things happened. But in reality, these things didn't change my life at all. And as I've gotten further into my 20s, I've noticed that things come and go. It's kind of just the way of life. And importantly, I've noticed that this applies to good things as well. So when something good happens, realize, okay, this is a great thing. Enjoy it, live in the moment. But also realize that it's probably gonna go away. But that's okay because that's life. So bottom line is this too shall pass. But if you made it to the end of this video, I hope these 20 tips were helpful. These are definitely the 20 things that I think I've learned in my 20s so far that have made the best and biggest impact on my life. But if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.